It's 2 in the morning. You're lying in bed and there's a sound in your head, a slow, deep throb. It's not loud, it's worse than loud. It's a pulse coming from one tiny spot in your jaw and it gets a little stronger every time your heart beats. You press your tongue against the tooth. Bad idea. White light behind your eyes. You roll over. You can't sleep. You can't think. The whole world has shrunk down to one rotten little point in your mouth. Now here's the good news. In the morning, you'll call a dentist. You'll get a needle, a drill, a pill, and by tomorrow night you'll have forgotten this ever happened. Your ancestors had none of that. No dentist, no needle, no pill, no relief, not tomorrow, not next week, not ever, just the tooth, the pain, and a body that had to deal with it alone. And somewhere in the dirt of a place called Mayagar, archaeologists found a human tooth with a small, perfectly round hole drilled straight into it. Not cracked, not decayed, drilled, 9,000 years old, and it was not made by a weapon. Hold on to that, we'll come back to it, because the story of how ancient humans survived tooth pain is so much stranger than you think. But here's what nobody tells you. To an ancient human, a bad tooth wasn't a bad day, it could be a death sentence. Think about what a cavity actually is. It's a hole. Bacteria eat through the hard outer shell of your tooth, then they reach the soft inside where the nerve lives. That's the pain you feel at 2 in the morning. But the bacteria don't stop there, they keep going down into the root, into the jawbone, and then, if you're unlucky, into your blood. We have a word for that today. It's called sepsis. Your own immune system goes haywire trying to fight the infection everywhere at once and your organs start to shut down. It can kill a healthy adult in a matter of days. We treat it now with antibiotics and an IV drip. Your ancestor had a sharp rock and whatever plants grew nearby. And remember, you only get one set of adult teeth. 32 of them, no replacements, no spares. Once a tooth was gone, it was gone for the rest of your life. There was no crown, no implant, no false tooth. Every single tooth you lost made it a little harder to chew, which made it a little harder to eat, which in a world where food was never guaranteed made it a little harder to live. So a swollen jaw wasn't cosmetic. A throbbing tooth wasn't an inconvenience. For most of human history, the inside of your mouth was one of the most dangerous places on your body. And here's the part that flips everything you'd expect. You'd think ancient humans had terrible teeth. Rotten stumps, black gaps, mouths full of decay. That's the picture in your head, right? Cavemen with cavities. It's wrong, almost completely wrong. When scientists study the skulls of ancient hunter-gatherers, the people who lived before farming, who hunted animals and gathered wild plants, they find something that doesn't fit the story. Strong teeth, healthy jaws, cavities so rare they're almost a surprise when they show up. We can see the same thing in living hunter-gatherer groups today. The Hadza of Tanzania, the San people of southern Africa, people eating the way humans ate for hundreds of thousands of years. And their natural teeth, before modern food reaches them, tend to be remarkably tough. This isn't because they brush twice a day, this isn't because they flossed, this is because of what they put in their mouths in the first place. Wild food is hard, it's fibrous, gritty, tough, you have to rip it and grind it. Chewing it actually scrubbed their teeth clean. And the big one, there was almost no sugar. A little honey if you were brave enough to raid a beehive. Some fruit in season, that's it. The bacteria that rot your teeth live on sugar and soft starch, and the wild menu barely offered any. So the cavemen, it turns out, didn't have the cavities, so who did? Now think about that for a second. Around 12,000 years ago, humans did something they'd never done before. They stopped chasing their food and started growing it. Farming, wheat, barley, rice. It's the single biggest change in the history of our species, and we usually tell it as a triumph, the beginning of cities, writing, civilization, everything. But your mouth tells a darker version of that story. Farming meant grain. Grain got ground into flour. Flour got cooked into soft bread and sticky porridge. Soft, mushy, starchy food that clings to your teeth and breaks down into sugar right there in your mouth. To the bacteria living on your teeth, the invention of agriculture was the greatest gift in history, an endless all-day buffet. And the decay exploded. When you compare the teeth of people before farming to the teeth of people after, the difference is stark. Suddenly there are cavities everywhere, abscesses, lost teeth, worn down, rotting mouths. The tooth decay we think of as ancient and primitive isn't really a caveman problem at all, it's a farmer's problem, a civilization problem. Even Ötzi, the famous 5,000-year-old Iceman found frozen in the Alps, paid the price. When researchers examined his preserved body, they found gum disease and worn, decayed teeth. He lived right in that transition, eating the new soft, grain-heavy food. His mouth shows the damage. So the comfortable life, the settled life, the life that built everything we have, it came with a bill, and we paid it in teeth. So what did they actually do about the pain? Honestly, a lot of the time they suffered. They lay awake at 2 in the morning just like you, except morning brought no relief. They waited for the tooth to either settle down or fall apart. Sometimes the body won, sometimes it didn't. But they weren't helpless, not even close. Ancient humans were brilliant at reading the world around them, and the world was full of medicine if you knew where to look. Take willow bark. People across the ancient world chewed it and they had no idea why it worked, but it worked. Willow bark contains a chemical called salicin. If that sounds familiar, it should. Salicin is the natural ancestor of the active ingredient in aspirin. Your great-great-thousand times great-grandmother was chewing on the original painkiller, straight off the tree. There were others, clove, which actually numbs the gum and is still used in dental products today. Certain leaves and resins chewed into a paste and packed against the aching tooth. And when nothing worked, when the pain was unbearable and the tooth was clearly dead, there was the last resort. You pulled it, or someone pulled it for you. No numbing, no painkiller strong enough to matter. Just a hard grip and a fast, brutal yank, and then you lived with the gap forever. And this is where it gets wild, because some of them did something far more sophisticated than just pulling teeth. Remember that hole? The perfectly round one drilled into a 9,000-year-old tooth at Mayagar in what's now Pakistan? Here's what that actually was. Archaeologists found 11 teeth, from 9 different adults, each with a tiny, neat hole bored straight into the chewing surface. They studied the marks under a microscope. These weren't made by decay or accident. They were drilled deliberately using a tiny bow drill, the same kind of spinning flint tip ancient people used to start fires and bore through beads. Someone took that drill, held it against a living person's aching molar, and bored into it to clean out the rot. This is dentistry. Real dentistry, and it's 9,000 years old, which means humans were drilling teeth thousands of years before they invented writing. It gets better. In Slovenia, researchers found a 6,500-year-old tooth with a crack running down it, and that crack had been filled with beeswax. Someone packed the painful gap with wax to seal it, the same basic idea as a modern filling. And in a cave in Italy, scientists found an even older tooth around 14,000 years old where someone had scraped and cleaned out a cavity with a sharp stone tool, cleaning out decay 14,000 years ago. So picture it, long before kings, before cities, before a single written word, somewhere a person sat down in front of another person, looked into their mouth and went to work on a rotten tooth with a stone drill and a steady hand. The world's first dentist. No diploma, no anesthetic, just the knowledge passed down by hand that you could fight back against the pain in your own skull. But that's not even the strangest part. The strangest part is that the damage didn't stop with them. It's in your mouth right now. Think about your wisdom teeth. There's a decent chance you've had them out, or you will, because they don't fit. There's no room. They come in crooked, sideways, jammed against the teeth in front of them. Why would your body grow teeth that don't fit your own jaw? Because your jaw changed faster than your teeth did. For millions of years, human jaws were big and strong, built by a lifetime of chewing tough, raw, fibrous food. A jaw like that had plenty of room for all 32 teeth, wisdom teeth included. But then came soft food, cooked food, ground flour, then mush, then everything blended and sweetened and easy. We stopped working our jaws, and over generations they shrank. The teeth, though, kept their old marching orders, same number, less space. Crowded, crooked, impacted. Your crowded smile, your braces, your wisdom teeth surgery, that's the echo of a diet your ancestors abandoned. Your mouth is still built for a world that no longer exists. So here's where we land. You started this thinking ancient people had it worse than you, and in one way they absolutely did. A bad tooth could end them, and they faced it with a rock and a chewed-up leaf and raw nerve. But in another way, the joke is on us. They didn't have the rotten mouths. We do. The clean teeth belong to the hunter in the grass, not the office worker with a toothbrush and a tube of paste. This isn't a story about how primitive they were. This isn't a story about how lucky we are. It's a story about a trade we made without realizing it: soft food, sweet food, easy food, in exchange for the strong jaws and tough teeth our bodies spent 2 million years building. We got comfort. We handed back our mouths. So the next time you put off a dentist appointment or wince at the sound of the drill, stop for 1 second and think about the person 9,000 years ago who sat perfectly still while someone bored into their tooth with a spinning piece of stone. No numbing, no escape, because the alternative was so much worse. Could you have survived it? One bad tooth, no dentist, nothing but willow bark and your own grit. Be honest. Tell me in the comments, would you have lasted a single week? And if this rewired the way you look at your own mouth, even a little, subscribe. There's a whole lost world in your body and we're only just getting started.